not just a race, it's a real adventure, a test of man and his machine against all odds. It's a long way from the beautiful boulevards of Paris, France to the West African city of Dakar, over 7,500 miles. But Paris is where 400 thrill-seeking drivers gather before making the perilous 20-day journey into Africa. Among them is former Le Mans and Paris-Dakar champion, Jackie X.
As you know, it's an off-road racing. Most of the tracks we're using are used sometimes only 2 or 3 times a year. So there are really no roads. You have to be so careful, and you have to be so aware of the problems of the road itself. So the tension during the rally is very high. And as you know, probably we have to race between 6 and 9 hours a day.
The strike of the New Year's bell is the starting gun for the off-road warriors participating in the Paris to Dakar run. In one of the greatest send-offs a racer could dream of, some 30,000 Parisians, including Miss France, cheer the daredevil drivers who come from around the world. At the dawn of the new year, these international driving teams bring a grand European tradition deep into the heart of Africa. The evening of January 1 brings the racers to the southern French town of Sète, where 3 ships ferry the entourage across the Mediterranean to the ancient port city of Algiers in North Africa. This is the first race of its kind to allow any type of vehicle to enter. You can see special factory-prepared Porsche 911s, Mercedes 500 SLCs, motorcycles, 3-wheelers, dune buggies, and the rugged Land Rover. The race lasts a total of 20 grueling days. Speeds reach up to 150 miles per hour over some of the world's harshest, most hazardous terrain. Race organizer Terry Sabine describes the course. It's a race of adventure covering almost 7,500 miles between Paris, passing through Algiers, and 7 different African countries. It's an event that has tremendous competitive spirit. It takes place over 3 types of terrain: a very mountainous area, the desert, perhaps the most beautiful desert in the world, and into the tropical savanna of the Ivory Coast and Guinea. Ick says Porsche 911 is the favorite vehicle in this Paris to Dakar run.
It's a Porsche 911. It looks like a Porsche, but it has 4-wheel drive, and it's prepared for the desert and off-road racing. It has a 3.2-liter engine, and it has 230 horsepower.
Horsepower sounds like a new concept to these nomadic Bedouins who still travel by camel power. Nighttime means refuel, repair, and rest. The mountains and the desert takes its toll on the men and machines.
The Tenere was much more pleasant than last year. In fact, we didn't see it as we crossed it last year. There was such a storm blowing, but it was most enjoyable this year. But I think the most difficult part of the rally is still to come.
As the race continues, the number of survivors drops.
They destroyed a vertebrae in his back when we went over a jump. He jumped in the air and came down, and he's gone off in the ambulance.
Men have even died in the course from Paris to Dakar. What makes a man want to do it? Porsche Cup champion Jochen Maas answers.
I was always intrigued by the possibility of driving through the Sahara and go through all these various countries which you normally cannot really freely travel through. And it's a fascination which is difficult to nail on the head, but it's just some organized adventure which sort of makes you feel good through the whole year.
Less than 1/2 of all the entrants make the final sprint along the West African coastline. Those who survive the harrowing adventure know they've passed the super test of endurance racing. But does the Paris to Dakar rally really appeal to everybody?
No, certainly not. Quite a few are doing it, but not really many race car drivers are into that sort of rough life, and you know, quite a few would say, "Are you crazy?" No way I would do it. But then again, quite a few would say, "I would love to do it," and they do it eventually. And it's an experience which I wouldn't want to miss, and I'm hoping to do it again next year.
The Paris to Dakar, for those who seek the ultimate challenge in the exciting world of speed and beauty. This was a miraculous race for Philippe Junot, who was lost in the Mali desert when his motorcycle's ignition system burned out. He was informed that a very similar-looking bike was on the other side of the huge sand dune he had broken down on. It was another Suzuki, the same one he abandoned in last year's race. Philippe cannibalized the ignition system and went on to finish. Still to come in the exciting world of speed.